castle goring from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well, today I have on a present from a friend who I am going to actually lead off this episode with one of her biggest hits, because we share a birthday. So tomorrow I am going to be 37 in reverse, and she is many, many years younger than I am. But she and her husband gave me this headband for my birthday tomorrow, our joint birthday. Her name is Belinda Carlisle, and his name is Morgan Mason. And thank you, darlings. I love it. Isn't it fun? So, without further ado, I am going to plunge right in. Since the babies are behaving so well, Aurora is paying strict attention to Mickey, and I am going to shove them out of the way because the heat is indescribable. Elsie Steenkamp says, "My dearest Lady C, I was taught one should be cautious of what you say and do to others, for what you throw to the east hits you from the west. Only trouble is, it's gained momentum on its journey. Thank you for your delightful insight on these matters." Elsie Steenkamp, we are starting with your invaluable observation, which is a slightly more elegant way of saying, in fact, a considerably more elegant way of saying what the Jamaican people say, which is, if you spit in the sky, it will fall in your eye. And we see lots of spitting in the sky taking place all the time, some of which we will be speaking about today. Yes, retribution has a way of biting people on the posterior, doesn't it? But it also has a way of taking its time to arrive at its chosen destination. So, Janice Reeve says, "I hear horrid Henry and Meghan are coming to Manchester in England for the Young One World Summit next month. No doubt for Netflix footage. Woefully lacking so far. Grateful for the heads up, as we live near Manchester and will be going to show our appreciation. Amen." Yes. Meghan and Harry are coming on, if I recall correctly, it is the 5th of September, which is the same day that Boris Johnson steps down and a new Prime Minister takes his place. The Queen might come down from Balmoral to kiss hands, as it's called. Well, they kiss hands with her as opposed to she kissing hands with them. It's the formula, let's put it that way. When a new Prime Minister is received by the monarch. They will be in Manchester. The Queen will be more than likely in London or at Windsor, but she might still be at Balmoral. The dates are very interesting because I'm just trying to find them to be absolutely sure that I don't mess up. Because Harry and Meghan are she's going to give the keynote speech, incidentally, for the One Young World Summit, which is a perfectly worthy cause. Justin Trudeau, who I'm sure we all agree is the spitting image of Fidel Castro, with whom his mother had an affair. Not, of course, that we're casting any aspersions as to his paternity. But isn't it amazing when a child looks nothing like the husband, but is a spitting image of the lover? Then Harry and Meghan are leaving to go to an event which is associated in Dusseldorf in Germany with the Invictus Games, which will be held next year, September, in Dusseldorf. And then they are coming back on the 8th of September for the Well Child Awards. So they have one night spare. Are they going to be received by Her Majesty? I would hope that they would make the effort to see Her Majesty. Her Majesty's health is not great, as everybody must by now realize. And Harry's conduct has had a terribly detrimental effect upon the Queen and upon her health. I hope while she is able to be receptive of his, well, while she's really able to be forgiving, I hope he will beg for forgiveness. But I suspect that's somehow a pointless hope. But it will be very interesting to see if he is received by her or not. Because I have to tell you, if he is not received by her, it's very ominous on many fronts. Elizabeth K. says, Meghan Markle's claims of racism seem to be based on the fact that she was the first person of colour to marry into the royal family. But she wasn't. Lady Davina Windsor, the daughter of the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, married a New Zealand Maori in 2004. But he's not of African descent, not black. So does that mean he is not a person of colour? He is 10 shades darker than Meghan Markle, and their son is at least as dark as Meghan Markle. So, based on that alone, I would call BS on her claims that the royal family is racist. I am a Pakeha Kiwi myself, and I personally don't consider Maori to be of colour, just Kiwis. Well, Elizabeth K., to answer your question and chase up your observations, you're absolutely right. I wrote a book called People of Colour and the Royals, and Davina Windsor's husband is mentioned in it, as is their marriage. And that's not the only person of colour in the royal family, because the present Earl of Harwood's uncle is married to a black Nigerian. Just say that for what it's worth. The late Earl of Harwood, George Harwood, was the previous Princess Royal's son. Also, Diana, Princess of Wales, had Indian blood, which I'm the one who revealed in, I think it was done in private, but it might have been in the royal marriages. And it took another 20 years or however long, 25, whatever, for the Times of India to pick up the ball and run with it and make it front page news. And William, to give him his due, gave his DNA, and it was confirmed that he and Harry have Indian blood. So Meghan isn't only the one with exotic blood. Also, to put it another way, Queen Charlotte, the consort of George III, she was, if I remember correctly, on 6 different branches of the family tree, descended from Madragana of Pharaoh, who was a woman of North African extraction. There is also the small matter of Queen Philippa, the consort of Edward III, through whom most European royals are descended, who was dark-skinned, dark-haired, thick-lipped, broad-nosed, and commonly accepted at the time to have had a very exotic ancestry. So, when you consider all of these facts, you begin to see how totally preposterous Meghan's posturing is. And that's before you even consider the fact that since she passed for white for most of her life, and when she's not bronzing herself up so that the skin is on the face is several degrees darker than the scalp, and the legs, which for some reason, those chicken feet somehow never seem to end up being quite as dark as her face. I wonder why. You begin to get the picture, don't you? That their sweet Megsy baby is an opportunist of the crassest kind, but one that we are going to be treated with a visit from. Aren't we lucky? My goodness, the world is privileged. Megsy baby is going to come, and Megsy baby is going to give us the benefit of her sachet as she gives a speech, grinning from ear to ear the way she does. And I have to tell you, there's a reason why Meghan always has that artificial smirk on her face. Her face in repose is nowhere near as attractive as her conscious recalibration of her features. That's why it is a projection not only of superiority, but of what she hopes will be an improved visage, and it is an improved visage. Paulie Terrani says, word on the street is the IRS is investigating the Harkles. No, 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 no. Uncle Sam, I didn't really mean it when I said that we were given £130 million. I didn't mean it, no. Why are you saying that I have declared it I did to the press. I didn't to you. You're racist. You're so unfair. I mean, why would you take what I've said as a statement of fact? How dare you? How dare you? It's outrageous. And we have a vice president who's a woman of colour. I better make a call. H, get on the blower. Do exactly what I say, H. Phone right now. Tell Kamala she needs to rescue the sister. I mean, can you believe it? Just because I said we made all that money and our tax statements don't accord in any way, shape or form with our public statements. They're gonna dig into our affairs and find out that the truth does actually, like a remembrance, it varies. It varies. Oh, God. Life's so unfair. Everybody's racist. Well, Kamala better deliver the goods for this sister. Otherwise, there's going to be all hell to pay. H will move back to England. That's what we'll do. Oriel GB says, hello, Lady C. I do enjoy your videos. Thank you very much. Did you watch the film of Harry's wife at the altar when she turns to hand her bouquet to the little bridesmaid? Charlotte looks at her and seems very wary of her, and the bride appeared to glare at little Charlotte. And what do I think of that? Yes, I did look at it. It's self-evident. She did glare at Charlotte. She didn't glare at Jessica Mulroney's daughter, but she did glare at Charlotte. The thing about Meghan is she's not a good enough actress to actually not give the game away. That's not good policy when you are pretending to be fish and you're foul. Well, of course, it's very unlikely that William and Catherine will be forgiving of somebody or not very guarded with somebody who their daughter clearly is on her guard against, because you could see in the video that little Charlotte froze. Quite right too. You know, it's very unfortunate that any of this happened. But what's truly unfortunate is that a child was involved. Pull the other one says, dear Lady C, has got into the habit of using the surname Wales when playing polo recently. I can't help but feel that Megsy has been pushing him to do so, so that people will become used to it. When and if using Princess Henry as a title in the future, couldn't she then manipulate it to Princess Henry of Wales, or worse, Princess Wales, or even worse still, Princess Meghan of Wales. Sorry. In order to throw a tomato at our own Princess of Wales when Catherine gets that title one day. Pull the other one. Yes, there is no other reason that Harry would use the word Wales in a name in any way, shape or form that he no longer has a right to. He is not Prince Henry of Wales anymore. He is His Royal Highness, when he's allowed to use it, Prince Henry, Duke of Sussex. Just as how Princess Alexandra of Kent ceased being Princess Alexandra of Kent when she married Angus Ogilvy, and her correct title is now Her Royal Highness Princess Alexandra, the Honourable Lady Ogilvy, not Princess Alexandra of Kent. Once Harry was endowed with the Dukedom of Sussex, his surname is Windsor. His title is Duke of Sussex, Earl of Dumbarton, etc., etc. But he is no longer Prince Henry of Wales. He has no right to be using it. Why is he using it? Let's wait and see, because, as we know, there is a bill before Parliament to empower the Queen to strip people of their peerages without recourse to Parliament. Meghan certainly believes in preparedness, doesn't she? It's a pity that for all of that farsightedness, she isn't foresighted as well. Just make that point for what it's worth. Because she doesn't actually seem to understand that as she's moving people around on the chessboard of life, everybody can see all her moves. And only idiots and sugars are deceived. Everyone else knows what she's up to. She is as transparent as glass. Freshly cleaned glass. Denise G.M. Foray says, Bonjour, Lady C, and thank you very much for your lights. Thank you. May I ask, as an attempt to avoid the Harry and Meghan topic, if you would give us your views on Salman Rushdie and the very point that led him to be sentenced to death out of a fatwa from the Iranian Khomeini. Thanks so much and good wishes. Well, Denise Foray, he wrote the Satanic Verses, and he was sentenced to death under a fatwa by Ayatollah Khomeini many, many years ago. And it was believed that they had revoked the fatwa. And in fact, Iran has stated that it has nothing to do with the attack upon Salman Rushdie. I think we can believe them, because if they did have something to do with it, they would be proud of it. The world is full of lunatics. It's full of extremists. It's full of cranks. Empress Elizabeth of Austria was randomly killed by an anarchist who simply wanted to kill a royal. And when he missed the opportunity to kill the Duc d'Orléans, and it was pointed out to him that that was the Empress Elizabeth of Austria, incognito, he simply stabbed her through the heart. There are all sorts of cranks in this world. The problem with whipping people up is, what do you do after you've whipped them up to bring them back down to some level of dispassionate positivity? Just a Name says, Lady C, I just read on the UK Parliament website. Can you please elaborate, and do you know the time process to get this passed? A bill to give the monarch powers to remove titles, to provide that such removals can be done by the monarch on their own initiative or following a recommendation of a joint committee of Parliament and for connected purposes. So we will not require an act of Parliament to remove any titles. This bill will allow the monarch to do so. Time for a champagne. Well, if I remember correctly, just a name, on the 20th of June, the bill had its first reading in Parliament. It is a private member's bill. It was introduced by Rachel Maskell, who is a Labour MP for York Central. She introduced it with the stated desire to strip Prince Andrew of his title. That's what she has done it for. I think in some ways the bill has merit. It had its first reading. It has its second reading on the 9th of December in the House of Commons. It has been said that it has recently been passed by the House of Lords. I don't see how that's possible. The House of Lords is not sitting. So I don't see how the House of Lords can be passing a bill or having a reading upon a bill that, when it's not sitting, it's rather like Harry giving his speech to the General Assembly when the General Assembly doesn't convoke until September. I make that point for what it's worth. There is something very disquieting about this bill. And what it states is that the monarch can revoke titles, but also that a committee of members of Parliament can recommend to the Queen that she revoke certain titles. This will be stripping the Queen, the monarch, who is the fount of all honours, of her unsullied right, where titles are concerned, to endow titles. Because if Parliament is going to say, okay, the Queen has a right to strip people of their titles, the peerages, she has a right to strip people of their princely rank. She doesn't have the right to strip them of their peerages. But if she has the right to strip them of their peerages, and Parliament has the right to recommend that she strip people of their peerages. It becomes political. And I am not comfortable with Parliament telling the monarch who to deprive of a title. Up to now, it has been the monarch who asks Parliament to strip the peerage. This is a backdoor way of involving the monarch in possible political dirty dealings. And I would hope that if this bill progresses through Parliament, that section of it is excluded and fails. Otherwise, it is setting up trouble for the Crown in the future. As to the rest, I think there's nothing wrong with the Queen or any monarch being given the right to strip people of their peerages if he or she so chooses. So let's be careful what we wish for and what we drink a toast to. As usual in life, just because something appears to be wonderful doesn't mean it necessarily is going to be so. Sergeant of Arms says, "Hello, Lady C. Sending love from Los Angeles, California. I've checked twice and there is absolutely no birth certificate for a Lilibet Diane Mountbatten Windsor, and it's not big block capitals sealed either, and the no birth certificate, the no is in huge block capitals. So what was submitted to the Home Office or Parliament is illegal or fake. A fake birth certificate can be purchased off Pinterest. There are only two possibilities. One, the adoption for Lilibet was submitted to the registrar office, but big block capitals. The adoption didn't go through, and the true mother didn't name her daughter Lilibet. The birth certificate that was submitted by Meghan was an informational certificate that is stamped in big black letters across the entire page and says it's not valid for identification. It's issued to the public and or not to the legal parents. So the fake kids, especially Lilibet, is in line of succession with questions of an invalid birth certificate. The kids must be removed until they are visually seen and birth certificate signed by doctor, bill and verify against. Who do I write to regarding this? Well, if you're dealing with titles, you could write to the Lord Lion King of Arms. That's one person you could write to. You can write to the Attorney General in Britain. You can ask questions of your MP. Oh, but of course, sorry, you are American, I think. Sorry, you can't ask questions of your MP. But you can certainly ask questions of whomever you please. You have the right to ask questions. I'm afraid this situation is so delicate that I would prefer not to be the person who you're asking questions of, beyond to whom should you address the questions. I will say, if your information is accurate and there is no birth certificate or registered birth of a Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor, because notice you have here Lilibet Diane Mountbatten Windsor. Maybe you should go back and ask for a birth certificate for Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor, because those would be two completely different names. The one letter could make a big difference. But if you have simply had a typographical error in writing this question, and you did ask for Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor, and there is no birth certificate, and it has to be said that this is an issue that crops up time and again, I see no reason to not ask questions until the anomaly ceases to be an anomaly. Because births are not necessarily, well, I don't know about in America, but in Britain, birth certificates are a matter of public record. I don't know about in America. If they are a public record, why is there no birth certificate? And how very interesting that what you are basically saying is that Meghan submitted an informational certificate in lieu of an actual birth certificate. Well, the issue is fraught with intrigue, and it's fraught with danger. And more than that, I'm not prepared to say I am afraid. Not at this point, at any rate. Remember, I am primarily a writer. If I have anything of such a profound nature to impart, I would be doing it in a book. Let me put it that way. Go, cat, go, says, what people have done to Her Majesty's beloved son Andrew can't have helped her health either. No, it certainly can't have helped her health. And it hasn't helped her health. I mean, there are definitely issues involved with the Queen's health that it would be indelicate to go into. But I will repeat what I've said before. The Queen has been affected to her very bones by the stresses, the strains, the distresses, the grief, and the enormity of what she has been subjected to. Not only by Harry and Meghan, although their danger is by far the worst, and everybody knows it, but also by Virginia Giuffre and David Boys. But you see, why would Virginia Giuffre and David Boys care about the Queen? They're not British. They don't care. I mean, personally, I think a decent person should care about somebody irrespective of whether you have something in common with them or not. But when you're dealing with high stakes, in a high stakes matter, like presidential politics, presidential reputations, presidential ambitions, presidential hopefulness, and the necessity to remove dangerous people out of the path of a president, whether it was past, present, or future, or hopeful, if not actual. The reality is, when you're dealing with people who are that ambitious and who are that uncaring and ruthless about the effect of their conduct on everybody except the entities and individuals whose interests they wish to preserve, everybody else is collateral damage, and it's a matter of total indifference to them. Do you think David Boyes, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Virginia Giuffre give one continental damn whether they could drive the Queen into an earlier grave than she ought to go into by heaping intolerable stress upon her to the extent that they would make her ill? Do you really think they care? Because I don't think they could have cared. Otherwise, and with Virginia Giuffre and Prince Andrew wouldn't have happened. And please, those of you who tried to tell me that she was trafficked, she was over the age of consent in the United States and in Great Britain. She got on a plane being over the age of consent in term carnally, but under the age of consent to travel without her parents' approval. Her parents approved. She voluntarily traveled. She lived with her boyfriend. She didn't live with her parents or her handlers, let's put it that way. And she, by then, was a noted procuress for them. She's not a victim. And if you think she's a victim, all I can tell you is, I don't think she's a victim. And I don't think that you can say that anybody who is over the age of consent, who elects to sell her body by her own account, elects to sell her body, and had been doing so by that time for over 4 years, is any sweet and innocent little victim. She might have originally been a victim of something. I personally think she's a victim of tremendous disorder in her personality, and she deserves compassion for that. But yes, even murderers deserve compassion. But that doesn't mean they should be let off the hook. Maggie Pig says, Meghan has 25% black skin in her DNA. None of us care about skin color, but she's playing that card. In my opinion, there is no way her children could be as fair-skinned and straight red-haired as they are. I have relatives with the same mix, and they are delightfully caramel-hued, curly hair and brown eyes. These are dominant features. I do not believe her eggs are in the mix, and for that she disgusts me even further. Maggie Pig, what can I tell you? You're entitled to what you believe. You are absolutely entitled to your belief. You are breaking no laws if you have a belief that does not accord with the official version of events. I know Meghan and Harry would like to shut everybody down so that the only version of events that would be narrated would be their version of events. But until that happens, and hopefully it never will, you are entitled to your opinion, as long as you don't assert it as a statement of fact. But as an opinion, you are entitled to it. And there's not a damn thing anybody can do about it, because you're not depriving anybody of their rights, and you are not depriving anybody of their entitlement, and you are not defaming anybody. You are simply giving your opinion. Julia Danvers says, the humorous thing about people who break rules is that they don't like people breaking their rules. And there, my dear Julia Danvers, you have it in a nutshell. In an absolute nutshell. Meghan is a rule breaker. She's encouraged Harry to kick over the traces and ignore every rule that he was brought up to abide by. But they expect everybody to kowtow to their diktat. I think it's called being a dictator. That's what it's called. Mimi says, sorry, Lady Campbell, I am a light brown and damn near white black American. Black is in quotation marks. I grew up in a black community, and I have to expose a top secret occurrence in the lives of all black Americans. We are indoctrinated from the crib to see racism in every facet of life. Racism is a cultural crutch, and blacks want it to stay that way. It is the trump card that ends respectful debate, blackmails and manipulates others, and discharges personal responsibility or a sense of gratitude. Like you, I think, all successful and blessed blacks who have achieved financial success and are among the American upper class should remain silent and stop supporting this poor us, we are perpetual victims crap. My dear, I couldn't agree with you more. Nor could Thomas Sowell, who I think is a wonderfully brilliant man and well worth listening to. So thanks for that. I couldn't agree more. Yes. Oh. Kathleen Lang says, every time there is a new unpleasant revelation about the Sussexes, I watch eagerly throughout the next week or so to see what negative stories are going to be floated about other more decent royal family members. It happens every time. Kathleen Lang, how very observant of you. It does happen every time, doesn't it? Tom Bauer writes a book that exposes Meghan as being the rather dreadful human being that she is. Questions about the state of the Cambridge marriage immediately arise. Amidst scabies wades in about all the prejudice to which he and she are subjected. She who made sure she eradicated every visual sign of her African ancestry, and he who, despite being 100% Caucasian, claims to be biracial, not binational, biracial. 100% Caucasian is biracial. Well, maybe when he was under the surgeon's knife, he changed race, because he certainly didn't start out being biracial, but he doesn't look a thing the way he looked when he was as God had created him. He was actually quite attractive. Now he's repellent, very artificial, very plastic, very packaged, very, if you're into falsity, fabulous. But if you're into naturalness, spare me. Or, as Phyllis Diller said, when asked about plastic surgeons, she said, I want Michael Jackson's plastic surgeon. And they asked her why. And she said, well, anybody who can turn a black boy into a white girl is the man for me. Susan Walton says, Dear Lady C, since Meghan and Harry need to redirect the public's attention away from the book Revenge, I thought you'd like to know about articles their PR team has put out in the American press. Here are some headlines. In addition to Duke and Duchess, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will hold other royal titles for life. Martha Stewart Weddings magazine. Harry, Meghan's security should be reinstated before it's too late. Newsweek. That was from the biracial plastic entity that calls itself amid scabies. That itch. Meghan and Harry will be honoured for their work surrounding Afghanistan, town and country. Sunshine Sachs is certainly working overtime and earning its money. The problem is, no matter how much you burnish a house that's built beside a pig farm, it still stinks. Jane Coleman says, Scabies completely over-egged the pudding with his outrageous claims about the threats against the Snorkels and himself. As for their support of the Afghanistan refugees, what about H's sworn lifelong support of British veterans? Oh, I forgot. Out of sight, out of mind, as they search for the next big thing to use and merch. Yes, Jane Coleman, that's the reality. Harry swore he was going to dedicate his life to veterans. Meghan swore, since Harry loved the Commonwealth, she was going to dedicate her life to the Commonwealth. Well, to wealth, yes. To their Commonwealth, yes. But to the Commonwealth, no. And as for the Afghan refugees, haven't I read somewhere that Harry used to say that, where he used to liken the work done in eradicating the Afghan people from the sky was akin to playing a video game. He can't have known which Afghan people he was speaking about, can he? Or are we dealing with yet another one of their many anomalies? Gail Christensen says, Lady C, one of the broadcasters, Mail, on Good Morning Britain, in a recent interview with Tom Bowers, was pushing the narrative that Meghan was a big star in America before marrying Harry. Don't these people do any research? This is an example of why people have lost faith in the news media. Gail Christensen, it was Sam Shepard, who actually, I have to say, is somebody I've met and like. But you see, when you are employed by a newspaper or a television company, you better follow their line. Otherwise, you can be shoved out. And if you don't follow their line, you will be shoved out, as Dame Caroline McCall's proved when she fired, effectively, Piers Morgan for saying that he didn't believe a word that came out of Meghan's mouth. Andrew Morton was the first person in his book, the premarital book about Meghan, to big her up and puff her up and blow her profile out of all recognition. And the respectable mainstream media in this country are still doing it, even though they know it is a lie. Now, Sam Shepard is on Good Morning Britain, which is where Piers Morgan used to be. Of course, since Piers left, it's tanked. But Dame Caroline McCall is the head of ITV. She is the one who dismissed Piers Morgan because he dared to question Meghan. I will say it again, I've said it before, a large percentage of the British media are completely illiberal. They have what they would like us to believe is a liberal agenda, but is actually an illiberal, intolerant, doctrinaire agenda. And I don't want to use the term left-wing, because there are many left-wingers who relish fact, fair play, the truth, decency, and accurate information. And there are many right-wingers who don't, and there are many centrists who don't. So I don't want to use left, right-wing, or centrism. I just want to make the point that much of the media in this country, for its own reasons and to enhance its hold on power and to enrich itself, many of them will actually deliberately serve the purposes of misinformation, just so that they can dictate a false narrative. And the false narrative where Meghan is concerned is that she is a victim when she is a perpetrator. And that somehow, because she is devious, manipulative, calculating, and none too truthful, that she is somehow a wonderful human being, and that she gave up anything but a career that was already on the slide and that was never anywhere near as good as she claimed it was, or they have claimed it was. She was and let's give credit where it's due, she was a perfectly acceptable D grade or D list, whichever way you want to put it, actress, reasonably successful. I don't think there's any disgrace in the fact that she was D-list and that she was reasonably successful. But she certainly wasn't a star, never was, and the only constellation that she seems to be starring in is one of true dubiousness. Because yes, she has become a star, but a star of what? A star of misinformation, post-factual remembrance, divisiveness, bitterness. What is she a star of that is anything but not commendable? I mean, you don't squander being one of the most popular couples on earth to becoming one of the most unpopular couples in this country in the short space of time that they've managed to accomplish that and regard it as a positive. But Sam Shepard, ITV, Good Morning Britain, let them keep on saying that Meghan is a star. If it makes them happy, let them continue saying it. Tom Bower was quite right to pick him up on it. And on that note, I would say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and remember, please keep the questions and comments coming in, because I can't do this without you. God bless and goodbye.